I wanted to do. I was doing a book review. And most of your advisors, so you know what I'm talking about. I was doing a book review with a client earlier in the week. And the client said to me, you know, I kind of wish I had a chance to hear what you're saying from Mr. Nash himself, right? I wish that I had the opportunity to see him live. And I don't know how many of you have. I know, Joanna, you've seen Mr. Nash live, right? Vicky, you've seen him live. Steve, did you ever get a chance to see Mr. Nash on a live event?
Not his presentation, just the interview.
Okay. So I have a video that I'm going to show you guys. This video was, you know, Mr. Nash passed away, was it last year? Maybe the year before? Last year. And the Nelson Nash Institute put together a video where they interviewed him before, you know, he passed. And it's an hour and 2 minutes, and I'm not going to play the whole hour. I picked out 20 minutes of it that, for me, and let me just say this. I met Mr. Nash in 2000. As a matter of fact, Joe invited me, I was an agent with Prudential at the time, to a banking seminar that he was doing here with Mr. Nash. And at that day, I think it was a 2-day event, I want to say. And being in the business for a really long time, since 91, right? I thought this guy was just going to be crazy. But I went through it. I got the opportunity to be personal friends with him and his family. As a matter of fact, when he used to come here, Joe used to host him. He would stay at Joe's house. Me and my kids would go over and hang out with them. And he even played water polo with my daughter in the pool, throwing the ball back and forth. It was the cutest thing. Yes, he was just the nicest, most genuine, caring. But most importantly for me, he was real, right? I think you meet a lot of people that you're not never really quite sure if they really, A, believe what they say, B, care about, and it didn't matter if he was talking to one person or a whole group of people. His whole idea was to share his ideas and to really make you understand as to why you need to change your way of thinking. So I'm going to play about 20 minutes of this thing, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the things that he say, and we can talk a little bit about, and by the way, this is a video that can be shared with anyone. It's a tribute to Mr. Nash, and I don't know if any of you have seen it or not seen it, but let me share my screen. Let's see which one it is. I think it's this one. Please tell me that you can see this is Nelson Nash, the creator of the Infinite Banking. Okay, so I'm going to play this for a little bit, and then we'll talk about it. And there's more clips that are really great, and I'll be happy to send the link to this video. It's, like I said, it's a whole hour. I went ahead and sent this video to my client, and she texted me back, and she said, thank you. This makes me feel a lot better about the book and a lot better about, you know, when you actually meet the source of the information. So let me just play this now. I'm going to go ahead and mute. Let's all mute ourselves while this thing is playing. And that way we don't have any issues with, you know, some noise. I don't even know where my mute thing is. Hold on. Well, all right. Are you guys ready? Let's do this.
One reading of this book won't do the job. It's got to pique the imagination of a person, and they've got to go over and over and over it, because there are things that you don't see at first, because the more you see you didn't see. In essence, infinite banking concept is ridiculously simple, but it's complicated by the fact that the mindset that the general public has. They think that this can't be true because it is so simple. The forces out there that cause all this sort of stuff deliberately make it that way. They intimidate is what it amounts to. Well, you got to realize what evil looks like, and that is the evil that's going on out there. Don't participate. That's all. You got to learn to secede from the way that the world thinks, is what this amounts to. And when you do, you create a microcosm that's all yours. You created an aquarium. Well, the most important word really is probably concept. The others are modifiers. Now, it involves the flow of money. It involves the warehousing of money. But the more you see again, the more you see you didn't see. And so that's the reason for the word infinite. How do you describe infinite? You can't. When you define something, you put limits on something. Well, there's no way you can put limits on this. See, the idea that the banking function should be totally controlled at the individual level is a totally foreign idea to 99.9% of the world. Yeah, I point out that there's only one pool of money out there in the world. The fact that various and sundry banks, insurance companies, corporations, and individuals are managing a portion of that pool is incidental. It's just like an analogy of water. This earth is covered by over 75% of it is water. And the sun heats that stuff up. That causes some of it to evaporate in the atmosphere. That causes wind currents because moist air is lighter than dry air. And it precipitates out in rain, sleet, snow, and hail. And some way or another, some of it's going to flow through you and me, otherwise we're dead. About 75 to 80% of you is water. We can't live without that. And it's got to flow. Well, the same sort of thing happens with money out there. It's got to flow. Otherwise, it's absolutely worthless. See, people, they understand that, but yet when it comes down to a little simple thing like banking, they lose all perspective. And it's all because of a mindset. And that mindset predominates out there. Fish are the last to notice the water. It's been going on for something like 5,000 to 6,000 years. And you cannot break that cycle easily. You got to learn how to secede from it and realize that you do not have to play their game at all. All right, now when you don't play their game out there, it's a simple life, really. And it's very profitable compared with everything else because you see, so much of what we do in life out there has absolutely no function at all. It's just excess baggage that we have to put up with because of the way that we don't think. And one of the easiest things to do is get rid of the bankers out there. Don't be paying interest. It doesn't take all that long to really get started. When you get to my stage of life, that it's the best way in the world to pass the medium of exchange to the next generation. We had 49 policies at one time. We're down to 24 now.
I've heard you say that at this stage in your life that you're in the process of giving things away.
Yes, you can't take this stuff with you. Good grief. Since I developed this concept and so forth and got rid of the banks and the indebtedness I owed them, Mary and I and Kim and Dave and their family, we haven't seen the bank in over 30 years. Everything is done within the family. There's no mortgages, no car notes, there's no more financing of any kind. And that is a very peaceful, stress-free way of life. Well, it all begins with solving the banking equation at the unity level to the point where you do not participate in anything that goes on out there that involves loans from any type of banking organization, including mortgages. There's no mortgage here. There's no mortgage over there. There's no mortgage with my other two children at all. Dave's 4 kids and so forth. That's 4 kids, that's 8 automobiles, isn't it? Nothing is financed outside the system. It's an aquarium again. Kim and Dave have been married, like this year, 78, 79 was when they got married. First thing Dave had to do was buy a significant life insurance policy.
I actually met Nelson at the airport in Honolulu, Hawaii, 2 days before the wedding.
Yep.
For the first time. I was an Army lieutenant, so I was not interested in any Southern marriage rituals. with the father banning the son-in-law and all that stuff like that. I just wanted to get it over with. And so I proposed to Kim and never asked for her hand in marriage like I should have, unfortunately, because that wasn't part of the culture in Hawaii for second lieutenants. But anyway, I met Nelson and his wife Mary and Kim's grandparents and sister and brother-in-law at the airport. We picked them up at the airport a couple days prior to the wedding. And after shaking hands and getting formal introductions out of the way, the first thing I remember was me signing a piece of paper. And lo and behold, it was a whole life insurance policy. I think it was
First things first.
First things, I think it was $100,000 death benefit, and I was like, at that point I was signed to anything, okay, but that was the first thing I did was fill out my name and sign it, and I'm sure he submitted it as soon as he got back to the States.
Yeah.
But that was the first thing on his mind, I think. So I had no idea, what that would lead to. But it was still, it was just the first of many, so here we are. Never knew I'd be here today doing what I'm doing with Nelson. But my first time when I got the message was, we lived in Montgomery, Kim and I, and we had 4 kids by then. And we were getting ready to move to Savannah, Georgia. And we were getting a conventional loan, so I needed to put down 20%. And of course, I didn't have the money because I was in the Army, and all my disposable income was going to premiums. But anyway, so we had to come up with some cash, and so we asked Nelson if how much cash rental value we had. We had enough for, I think it was a $20,000 down payment. He said, "Hey, no problem. We'll get you a check in the mail immediately." And then so I filled out the paperwork for the mortgage, and it was like, okay, where did you get the $20,000 down payment for the house? And I was afraid to tell him where I got it, because my thought was that if I was borrowing money for a down payment, then they disqualify me for a loan. Okay, so I was like, how do I get around this and not tell them that this is a loan I'm using for a down payment? And so finally it came down to, well, it was a policy loan. I said, oh, that doesn't count. That's an asset you own, so that's fine. I went, really? So it was like, it was a check the block. It wasn't like going down to the bank and getting a loan, I'm talking about. So it was like, wait a minute, this is different. Okay. And this mortgage company, that they treated it as a different asset than a loan. And so that was 1992. And that was the first time I really started looking at it differently, thinking about it differently after that. The longer I'm doing this, the IBC, the more I see it from a personal perspective. 90% of people still don't understand what it's all about. They think it's about insurance. All we're talking about is creating a cash flow management system where you don't lose control of that cash flow. You buy policies as you can. You buy policies for reasons that you need to buy them for. Okay, if you have increased cash flow, then you can buy a policy. Okay, if you can afford it. Okay, if you have a new grandson or granddaughter, there's an opportunity to buy a new policy. Okay, to me, it's a lifestyle. Okay, it's not a financial plan. It's just a lifestyle. It's just part of living. Okay, just like everything else. I also shared that we've talked about that Kim and I bought Nelson and Mary's house back in 2010, and we tore it down, rebuilt it up. But that house was completely remodeled through policy loans, 100%. Okay, and the way we designed the policy loans was we designed them like construction loans. Because every 2 weeks I get an invoice from the builder for about $20,000. They'd invoice me for for materials and labor, because it's a cost plus contract we did. So it was about a $20,000 invoice every 2 weeks. And so every 2 weeks we get $20,000 policy loan. And it would take 2 to 3 days to cycle it and get it in the bank account. So we had that set up. And so it was just a cash flow, from the policies to me, to the construction company, and back around again. So it was all over with. We had that audit trail. And it's still, unfortunately, the house is still not paid for, but guess what? The deed is in my possession. Okay, I have a place for windfalls if I ever have an opportunity to get some. And we pay it as we can or want to. So that's perfect peace of mind.
So there's these two Auburn guys in school. They're discussing what they're going to take next session in school. One said, I just signed up for this new course that Auburn's offering in logic. His friend said, what's that? He said, look, I can learn a great deal about you in a relatively short period of time with just a few questions and the use of logic. For instance, do you own a weed eater? And he says, yes. Well, logic tell me you're a homeowner. Yes. Well, logic tell me you might be married then. Yes. Well, logic tell me you might even have children. Yes, we have two. He said, well, logic tells me that you're heterosexual. Said, yes. You see how it works now? Yes, I'm going to take that course too. He signed up. Talking with somebody a couple of days later, he says, I just signed up for that new course Auburn's offering in logic. The other party says, well, what's that? He said, look, I can learn a great deal about you in just a few minutes with just a few basic questions and the use of logic. For instance, do you own a weed eater? No. Logic tells me you're probably homosexual. You see, he took a little bit of information and he reached an absurd conclusion. Well, if there was ever a business out there that treated that way, it's life insurance. People take a little bit of information and they reach absurd conclusions. People keep thinking that life insurance is a product of the IRS code, and it is not. In USA, the IRS code's only been around since 1913. The country is about 230 years old, something like that. Life insurance is older than the United States. Quite often, people with quote a large amount of monetary value have a more difficult time catching on this than the everyday person. The everyday person can see the value of it and start on the scale that's appropriate for them. And it doesn't take long to get rid of one of those indebtedness out there. And once you get that done, it snowballs in a hurry. Like I said, it took me 13 years to get rid of the banks. But so what? 13 years are going to go by anyway. But once you get rid of this, it's such a different life. Shakespeare gave us a clue years ago. He said, all the world is a stage, and all the people are actors thereon. But my observation in the financial world, when it comes to the subject of finance, they don't even know what the play is about. But worse than that, to get the characters in the play mixed up. All right, now somebody's got to be the banker out there. What's happening with dividend paying whole life insurance? You got to pay a premium. The life insurance company has got to put that money to work. They put it to work in various and sundry places. And in my book, I point out that one of the places they put it is shopping centers and real estate developments and so forth. Another place they might put it to work is mortgages, like house mortgages, residential mortgages, things of that nature. And another one is that they do make it possible to lend money to you. In fact, if you read the contract, it tells you that you have available 100% of what can be lent from your policy at any one time. Well, if that's true, which it is, it's total control. Well, the life insurance company really is your trustee. This is just like a trust agreement. A trust has a grantor. It has a trustee. It has a beneficiary. The grantor creates the trust. Up until that time, it did not exist. When you buy a life insurance policy, you're creating a new business from scratch that never existed. You put property into the trust, the trustee becomes the owner of that property. The trustee becomes the owner of that property. The trustee has got to put it to work to carry out the provisions of the trust. Well, he can put it to work in any number of places, but one of the places he can put it to work is with the grantor. Look at the financial statement of any life insurance company, and it will show you very plainly that it's an instrument that have a guaranteed payback schedule. I said guaranteed payback schedule. Now, that's not true of things called universal life. That's not true of things called variable life. But these are products of the brains of Harvard MBAs that it won't hold up over a period of time. Well, you got to meet people where they are. You can't force feed this stuff at all. It's not an intellectual argument. It is not a statistical argument. The concept of banking is. It's just that the people that have taken over the banking equation have polluted it all. And the banking function should be at the UNB level totally. But that is a foreign idea to most people. They can't conceive of it at this particular time. You're going to have to ask them to think, and that's painful. There's conditions out there where there's any number of people with college diplomas. They had never cracked a book since they got out of college other than some trash novel of some sort. You know, I've arrived, and so what do I need to learn more? And so when you've arrived, you quit thinking, and everything that you do is downhill. Learning should be a continuous process all of your life. Otherwise, it's just not all that much of a life. And of course, there's my mentor, Leonard Reed, most educated man I ever met in my life. He had no degrees from anywhere. Neither did Henry Hazlitt, his co-founder of the Foundation for Economic Education. Neither did Herbert Spencer in England years before that. And that was a time when they had nowhere near the resources that we have out there today. So people have really no excuse, but they have some erroneous ideas put into their minds. And that's the problem. It just doesn't have to be that way. And that's why they've got to learn to secede from the way the world thinks. So that's the real message of the arrival syndrome is when you quit searching out there, that's just not good. That's all there is to it.
Nelson, as of today.
So that's about, I mean, listen, I could have picked any 20-minute little blur and it would have been just great. I mean, I love refreshing myself with the simplicity. I think we complicate, right, our own process when we talk to clients and when we help clients put their banking systems. But at the end of the day, I feel like you have to refocus on the fact that what we're discussing here is really a process, right? I mean, Joanna, you got to see Mr. Nash personally, correct?
Yeah, a couple times.
How do you feel about this video? What did that bring up for you?
I got to see the whole movie, you know, when they brought it out, and I love it. And actually, I was taking some notes while you were playing it because I love the idea of water and how it has to flow and having that picture. But I think that it also brings up a lot of emotion too, because you see you get a snippet of who he was and of who Nash was, and seeing how he implemented it with his family and how important it was for the family. So I think that resonates with a lot of people that come from a loving, caring family. So I was starting to think, oh yeah, I can send this video to people. So yeah, it got me thinking about who I can share it with and It does. It brings it to a human level that maybe people forget when they're reading a book. You know, it's a different experience.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like it's a tool that maybe for a client, right, who's just learning about this, who's just researching and reading and learning to be able to see and hear it from him himself. I think it's not just validity, but it gives it that human element of, listen, this is not anything new, right? It's been around forever. It's just, why didn't anybody teach that to us before, right?
Right.
What about you, Vicky? What did the video make you feel? You've seen Mr. Nash as well, right?
I have not seen him in person. I've just,
Oh, girl, you missed
I
out.
know that was the downfall of it. You know what I really love is infinite banking is pretty simple. You know, it really, he solidified that it's really simple. I mean, we just make it so complicated because we're so scared of the concept. We're so scared of doing other people's job. But I look at it like, you know what, infinite banking is really simple. Money in, money out, and you just build your own error at the process. That's it. And so I just feel that, you know, when we go out there and we teach it, you know, I before I make it so extravagant and so complicated, but when I just break it down and says, you know what, I'm not teaching you how to save. Susie Orman can teach you how to save. You know, David Broch from the Automatic Millionaire can teach you how to save the $2-3. I'm actually teaching you how to spend money. A lot of people surprisingly don't know how to spend money. And so Nelson Nash, he you know, hit it on the spot when he said it's pretty simple. You know, it's not as complicated as what people make it out to be. It's very simple once you get it on the automatic of using your money this way, building it through your banking system. It's just so much easier to spend money. And how, you know, surprisingly, I pay my sales tax for the business through infinite banking. I paid my mortgage through infinite banking. I use the velocity concept of it. And so it's pretty simple once you get the system down, and it becomes a rhythm for me. And so
Right.
everything that I do is all through IBC. And that's really it is, you know, I'm a product believer of it, and I'm a user of it. So I'm not selling any fake dreams or fake hope. I'm just letting you know, hey, if you want to buy a car, very simple. And so I'm trying to get to that level where, hey, one of these days I want to be able to pay my mortgage through my IBC and not through a lending company. And that's really the goal.
Right, right. And that's exactly right. And I also feel like, you know, as we practice our own banking systems and as we teach banking to others, and as we talk about why you want to become your own banker, the discussion of a life insurance becomes less important. Doesn't it seem that way? He makes me feel, and sometimes I default trying to sell through illustrations or try to, you know, I go down the wrong path. And for me, when I was watching this video earlier in the week because I wanted to send it to this client, it kind of brought me back to, right, you're failing to educate through concept, and you're trying to educate through illustrations. So once in a while, it's always good to go back, whether you're a client or whether you're an advisor, and remember why it is that you're doing what you're doing. And remember the reasons and the way, and honestly, I mean, you know, it's been what, 18 years for me since I met Mr. Nash. And it's crazy how still some of the old kind of thinking, right, the way that it used to be, feeling like this is a bill, a debt, right? Oh, I got to pay money back in there. Oh, right. It really, you kind of revert back to the way that you used to, and even after 18 years. So one of the things that for me was really important in this video too was his statement about education, right? And unfortunately, you really can't force clients to read, you can't force clients to see, but what you can do is provide information, whether they see it or don't see it, right? Whether they read it or don't read it, whether they view the video or don't view the video. It's important for us to be able to have a set of systems. And I know I was working with Jeff trying to find, and Jeff, I'm still looking for it, I will find it, a video about using a banking system for real estate. I mean, we have a lot of information. We have a lot of videos through the years. Joe has accumulated an unbelievable amount of resources, which are now all somewhere in our Google Drive. And I think that, you know, my goal between now and the end of the year is to organize all that and maybe create a client packet, a video client packet that can be shared with all of the clients that you talk to, because the lady that I had the book review with prior to me sending her this video was one person, and the person that I talked to after she watched the video was a completely different person. It was almost like the wall kind of came down a little bit, because it was just not me talking about some concept. She's actually seeing it, hearing it from the person who, you know what I mean? So I kind of feel like we need to do a better job as an agency to provide like a packaged IBC, maybe a compilation of a lot of little videos, right? That can help the client really understand. Do you think that that would be helpful?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, videos are always good. You know, I find that I'm more of a talker with my clients. And so when people say you sell life insurance, I said, no, I don't sell life insurance. If anything, life insurance is a product I specialize in that helps you spend money. So if anything, it's more about an educational process. And I find that it's more about listening to my client instead of trying to teach them. You know, that way everybody has a different spending style, everybody has a different spending techniques, and not everybody could be at our level of understanding it.
Right.
And so I find that, you know, I let them find their own flaws.
Right.
You know, they think they're doing it right. I can't hit them in the head and say, yeah, you're doing it wrong. If you feel that it's working for you,
Right.
continue to do it. If you feel that you need changes, then I'm here to help you. And so I feel that education is always a life learning thing for even me, you know. And so for anybody who finds that, like you said, you're not going to be able to make people read. There's people who have never touched a book other than People magazine for the last 20 years. I find that, you know, giving them books to read has not been beneficial, but it's more about listening to their spending style. And I said, well, that's areas that you can cut, and that's areas that you don't need to spend money on. And so it's just really helping them understand interest that they're paying and paying out.
Oops, so it's exactly. No, I agree 100%. And I also think, by the way, let me show you this picture. This is the Nelson Nash that I remember. Let me see if I can share this with you. This was Joe's and Evie's house. They were there for about a week. This is my son, and here's my daughter. And they loved children, and they loved family. Oh, you guys don't see it? Hold on.
you have to switch.
Let me see it. It's hitting the wrong. I have it in the wrong. Can you see it? Hold on a second. Let me restart the share. Hold on. Do you see it now?
Oh, there we go.
Yes. So this was at Joe and Evie's house. They were here for a seminar, and they loved for all the kids to come over. We barbecued, and it was really interesting because he took the time to talk to my daughter aside one-on-one. It was just, they were just such a nice, pure, wholesome family. And it really, I feel like this is part of a story that you have to share with your clients is, you know, this concept, how it was developed, how did it, you know, how was it? And for me, the memories, I mean, and by the way, they came out pretty much, I mean, we had seminars all the time here when he was alive, and there was no one time where he did not come that he did not want to share with the families. And so he just went more and above just a relationship of some, you know, he actually became family. And that's what I feel I need to become to our clients and our advisors, right? Everyone together. Anyone else has any comment? Jeff, what do you think of, I know you're new to this concept, being an investment guy, and I know you've been actually talking to a client about banking. What did you think of the video?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. Whenever you get somebody who has the vision and clear vision, and he was the one who kind of maybe put some of the pieces together, it's always inspirational. And I think it's really important because the overall vision is so much more important than the little details. And right. I think if you get caught up in trying to explain details right away, you lose people. But if you show them the vision, it's very simple. Yeah.
Hey, Cameron, are you still with us? Are you there? I don't see your picture.
I am. I'm here.
Well, you as a client, right? Who has now, it's been probably a year or so that we did your banking system. What do you think about the video?
I mean, there's so many parts of it for me that I still don't fully understand because I just haven't taken the time to do it. But I know that I try to tell people about it and just to get it started, and just the understanding that, you know, you borrowed money from a bank, if you could be that bank. And I think I've talked about earlier, I started off from the school of Dave Ramsey, of managing a budget and living within your means. And we're still to this day working to that as a family. It's very hard. But understanding that, you know, if you could kind of implement the Ramsey approach to people that don't have all this extra income, and you know, and saving up that money to then start that wheel to turn, you know, we're still looking for that opportunity to do that in our own lives. And I think we should have already done it. Probably there's probably been 20 different things we could have done, but we just haven't really wrapped our head around that process. But, you know, once the money starts to flow on, you know, and things start getting better, it'll get easier to make those moves, you know?
Well, and the good thing about it, Cameron, right? You're a young guy. Like he said, right? All you have in this world is time. So if you start with $1, if you start with $10,000, it's really irrelevant the amount of money that you really begin your banking systems with. Is the consistency and is the understanding, and it's when there are windfalls and when there are opportunities to increase and opportunities to multiply the number of systems that you own. That's when you have to make sure that you take advantage of those opportunities, right? Because a lot of times we choose to use that money otherwise or do whatever else. So it's discipline, it's education, but it's also patience, right? To me, I think that a lot of people get very scared about sometimes when I talk about funding or layering policies or talk about even a premium, right? The lady that I was talking to, I started showing, you know, we were talking about a $25,000 deposit a year. That was what her budget was. And she actually became extremely scared about the number, but yet she is putting $1,600 a month into her 401k that matches, that has no matching. No, you know, that 401k does not match her $1. So she was okay putting the 1,600, and we were talking about 2,000, right? $400 more. And I think she was okay putting the 1,600 because she didn't even see that money, right? That's what a 401k illusion is, where they take it out before you
Right.
even get paid. And I call it an illusion because you're still spending the same $1,600, right? And after we kind of broke all that down, then she realized, she's like, oh, I can just stop putting the 1,600 into a, listen, if there's going to be a company that's going to give you a match in that 401k, we're absolutely 100% going to support that, right? You are not going to leave $3 on the table. But any other dollar above and beyond that they're not matching you could be used more effectively in a different system. And once she got by that, she goes, well, I can probably put away $3,000 a month. Then she became from a fear factor of having to even think about 25,000 to thinking about, well, if I'm putting 16, I can probably put another 1,000. And it didn't become an issue. And it kind of broke the wall down. So I think that, you know, the idea around this becoming an additional bill, does that make sense? Having to spend an additional, so I kind of feel as clients and as advisors that really is rerouting what you're already spending in a more effective way. And she's going to start the underwriting process on Monday. As a matter of fact, she sent me a text last night. She's like, can you show me a $50,000 premium just to see what that flow would look like, right? So now we're going from a 25,000 fearful illustration to now she's bumping it up to 50 and what that would look like. So that's what tells you that you broke that barrier of fear, which is really more than the policy and more than the banking concept, is that whole entire fear of change. And at first, which was kind of funny, Jeff, you know, that 401k was like her crutch, like her, you're like, well, I have, you know, and I think she has about $250,000 in her 401k right now. And it's interesting because she says to me, well, can I use that 250,000? And you know, we're not in the business of destroying any kind of qualified plans. We're not in the business of replacing current policies. We're not going to destroy systems that have been created that would incur fees or taxes or anything. Absolutely not. We're not going to recommend that you would ever destroy a 401k. But knowing what you know now and knowing where you can go, continuing to deposit dollars into that 401k would be irresponsible, right? We're professing continue to keep your 401k, continue to manage that money, but new fresh dollars be rerouted in a different direction. And she totally understood it, and she totally kind of she's like, oh, she's like, I kind of feel like you just opened my eyes that there's other ways of using dollars, right? And the reason why I'm going through this exercise is not just because from an advisor standpoint, but from a client standpoint, because I feel like ourselves put those limits on ourselves every time that we look at, and you know, the fear of change, I think everyone has. I think that everybody is always hesitant to change things around. But we have a really great story. We have a really great process. And I think that clients, it's irresponsible for, you know, to share what we know about banking. And we can't control who decides to and understands it, but we can certainly control how many people we tell our story to, right?
Well, and, you know, along those lines with her 401k, and that's the one thing that like I'm excited about with my wife is she does have a 401k and we borrow against it too. We've been paying down debts. And from you know, before knowing about this, it's great because the interest we make on that money is our interest. But now when we pay off this next loan in, I don't know what it is, 4 years or whatever, when we pay that off, I'm going to take out another loan, but I'm going to take that money out hopefully at that stage in our life and dump it right into our infinite bank. Knowing that when we pay back the 401k, we're making interest on the money we're paying off there at whatever percentage rate they decide. And then we're making, you know, around 4% on the money we moved. But now we have that liquidity sitting there that, you know, we can really start to turn the gears on that and start, you know, moving things through there.
Sure. And it's interesting because, I mean, did you guys, are you guys still funding Kemmer your 401ks, or did she stop putting money
No,
in?
we stopped doing that, and
Yeah.
we've turned that money towards paying down debts. And what's funny is since this whole pandemic started, we've actually been paying down more debt because we've been able to, you know, because I've had to pay myself less from a company standpoint. You know, we took advantage of the deferment of the mortgage, and, you know, we're just transitioning the money to other debts. And it's a great feeling, to be honest, to be in such a horrible place, you know, on a national level.
Yeah.
But financially, we're probably in the best place we've ever been, and it's only getting better. So I'm just trying to keep that momentum moving, you know, and, you know, surprise, surprise, on another note, we have 2 shows next week we have to do. I can't even believe it. I have 2 guys going out of town. We're doing a thing for Mr. Trump in Phoenix.
Wow.
And we're doing something for Walmart in Arkansas. And I'm just beside myself. I can't believe how fast we've actually kind of come back a little bit here. I mean, nothing huge, but the economy's coming back. I mean,
so Kemmer, is this an indication that there will be some normalcy? Because I've got to be honest with you, we just got an email that we had a trip for our Emeritus, our company, that was scheduled for June, got canceled, got rescheduled for October at the Greenbrier. I think it's in Virginia somewhere. And we just got an email yesterday that got canceled as well, that they're not going to have it at all this year. So are you seeing something different?
I think, well, you've got in the convention world, you've had SEMA commit, and then you had CES come out and commit that they've talked to their biggest brands and they say they'll arrive and show up. I mean, I think the thing a lot of people need to understand at the stage we're in as a world is we have the sick need to segregate and get well, and the well need to operate. And if we keep trying to, because if we cannot go back into another lockdown as a country, it will be devastating for everybody involved, inclusive of the country having to do another, you know, multi-trillion-dollar bailout, you know, that, you know, like we talk about, our children are going to pay for. I mean, I think, you know, Nevada's had higher cases but lower hospitalizations. As a world, we're still ticking up on daily cases, but our deaths per day are going down. Everything's trending in the right direction with cases getting worse. We're understanding how to treat this a little better. England just came out with a steroid that's helping people in dire shape, that, you know, saving about 1/3 there. I mean, we're figuring out ways to treat this without a vaccine. But to answer your question, I do think, you know, normalcy is going to take a while in the events world. Okay. I think,
but exciting, but hopeful and exciting that you have events coming up.
I can't believe it. I can't believe we have 2 things going on next week, and, you know, I thought this wasn't going to happen until September. So now that, to say that, though, I have nothing in July, I have nothing in August. You know, it's just kind of things are popping up, you know, here and there.
And that may be the case, right? It may be,
yeah.
They may wait to make decisions, maybe. I kind of feel like everyone, my daughter's college, my son's school, everyone is just July, 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 July. We'll let you know in July. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks between now and July, but okay, let us know what, it's going to happen.
Well, again, just everybody using common sense, and I think we can. It's gonna trend because we're gonna get herd immunity. We're gonna it will get better. I mean, this is not as bad as it's been made out to be. The respiratory part's scary, and there are people that are more prone to getting sick and dying from it, and those people need to take action. But I think overall in the populace, I think, if we kind of keep this line and we just ride this out and hospitalizations stay low, I think we can get through it. And by the time the vaccine rolls around, I mean, those who want to get it can get it. But,
yeah, no, and
locking down doesn't solve anything.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I'll tell you one thing, human nature doesn't solve anything either. I was at Walgreens yesterday, and I'm sure if you have been to Walgreens, they have those circles where you have to stand away from each other while you're paying. And there was a gentleman in front of me who, I was in my circle. He was not in his circle, and he moved over closer to the person that was paying. I mean, I thought there was going to be a brawl to go down because the husband was like, social distancing, get to your circle. And the guy's like, you don't tell me what to do. And the other guy's like, well, you don't even have a mask. I'm like, I don't need to wear a mask. I mean, they were going at it. And I'm just standing in my circle I just want to pay, right? I was just like, what has this world become? But, I mean, I guess just take it one day at a time, honestly. Any other thoughts or comment? I know it's about 10:51. I want to make sure we end on time. Anyone else has any comments or anything else that they want to kind of discuss? I wish you all a happy Father's Day for the ones that are fathers.
Thank you.
Yay. I'll tell you a sad personal story. I didn't grow up with a father. So for me, this is one of those holidays. It's like, oh, well, but for you fathers, happy Father's Day. You are important in your children's lives. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Did you guys want me to send you guys the link to this video? It's about an hour and
Yes,
15.
please.
Okay.
I would love it.
Yes, please.
Yeah, watch the whole video. There's a lot. I mean, there him talking seminars. There's so many pieces that I could have picked. I could pick 20 minutes from this video for the next 4 weeks, and each piece will have something different, right? So anytime that you need a refresher, you need to remember why it is that you do what you're doing with these banking systems. Watch the video.
And do you have the quiz slides from last week that you could share?
Yeah, I gotta send it to you. Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Have a great weekend, you guys. Joe will be back next week. Okay.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Have a great
Bye.
weekend. Bye.
Bye.